Good morning to everyone. Today we are going to learn about the structure of atom. That means how the fundamental particles or subatomic particles can exist inside an atom. We know an atom has several particles like electron, proton and neutron. We also know as that nucleus. Nucleus, that means the neutron and proton which exist at the center of the atom, and electrons exist surrounding of the nucleus. Therefore today we will learn about the how the electrons, protons or neutrons are generated or how discovered, and how what are the charges, what are the masses, how the scientist has discovered these types of atoms, sorry, subatomic particles. Let's start with the some key points about the structure of atoms. An atom is composed of two regions. That means already mentioned that we have an atom and we can differentiate or we can classify the atom in a centric region and the outside region. The centric region consists nucleus, and nucleus is made of neutron and proton, and outer region or outside region exist only the electrons. Protons and neutrons have approximately the same mass, about 1.67 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams, or 1 atomic mass unit, or 1 Dalton. These three terms we are using, all of them are same: 1 AMU atomic mass unit AMU, 1 Dalton, or 1 atomic mass, or 1.67 into 10 to the power minus 24 grams. That means one atom, if any atom has one proton or neutron, the mass of the neutron and proton are same, approximately same, and the value is around 1.67 into 10 to the power minus 24 gram. Each electron has a negative charge minus 1. Actually this is not the minus 1, this is comparative value of charge. When the charge of a proton and charge of a electron are considered, it is shown as they have the same charge. So equivalently we can consider the charge of the electron or proton is 1, either positive 1 or negative 1. The atom is electrically neutral. What does it mean? Electrically neutral means the number of positive charge and number of negative charge in an atom is always constant or always same. Therefore the positive charge and negative charge cancel out each other. Therefore the atom is electrically neutral. It has both positive charge and negative charge, but the number of positive charge and number of negative charge are equal, so is cancel out other. Therefore the atom is electrically neutral. Neutrons are chargeless, found within the nucleus. We know nucleus is formed by neutron and proton. The proton is positively charged, but neutron is chargeless. Therefore if a center or if a nucleus have two proton and two neutrons, and outermost they have two electrons, in that case overall charge is 0. Therefore outermost shell or outer orbitals have the electron 2 negatively charged and center has 2 positively charged. If the neutron was with charge, therefore the center would be more charged compared to the outermost shell. So the atom cannot be electrically neutral. Therefore from different scientists they proved that the neutron is chargeless, and today we will try to understand or to want to see how they have discovered these types of particles. That means either electron or proton or neutron, how they have discovered and how, what are their properties. Now we will learn some other key terms. First we have learned some key points and we will learn some key terms about the structure of atoms. You are very familiar with the term atom and also all of these particles, electron, proton, neutrons. Even today I am going to give you just brief review. So atom, the smallest possible amount of matter, whatever it can be, a molecule or a compound or a particle or any substance, the smallest possible amount of matter which still retains its identity as a chemical element consisting of a nucleus surrounded by electrons. So atom is the smallest part of any component or particle having the identity, or it still remains its identity or original property consisting of a nucleus surrounded by electrons. And atomic particles, what are the atomic particles? You are very familiar. Atomic particles, we have electrons, protons, neutrons. Electrons exist in the surrounding of the nucleus. At the center, neutron and proton. Protons are positively charged, neutrons chargeless, electrons are negatively charged. And electrons surround the nucleus continuously. And another thing, atoms have different properties based on the arrangement and number of their particles. That means different atomic, different element have different types of atoms. That means every atom is classified based on its number of particles, how many particles reside inside the atom. That means based on the number of particles in an atom we classify them. So how we classify? If the number of particles is different and the arrangement of the particles are different, then the properties of the particle or that element will be changed compared to any other one. Therefore atoms have different properties based on the arrangement and number of their basic particles. Okay, now electron, the lightest subatomic particle in an atom having negative charge which circulate the molecules nucleus. So we know that electron has negatively charged or negative charge, and it is the lightest particle in an atom, which is approximately around 2000 times less heavy compared to a proton or a neutron. So proton, positively charged subatomic particle forming part of the nucleus of an atom and determining the atomic number of an element. That means in any atom how many protons are there, we classify or we recognize the atom by the number of protons. That means we consider or we call it the atomic number. Neutron, a subatomic particle forming part of the nucleus of an atom. It has no charge. It is equal in mass to a proton, or it weighs 1 AMU. That means one proton has the mass of 1 AMU and one neutron also has the mass of 1 AMU, and neutron is chargeless and proton is positively charged, or charge is +1 and neutron is 0 and electron -1. Okay, now we will go how the electrons are discovered. First of all, this is the guy who has discovered the electron. Who discovered the electron? J.J. Thomson in 1897, when he was studying the properties of a cathode ray. So today we will see how the cathode ray is generated. That means how he has discovered the electrons. That means the experiment how he did that J.J. Thomson, and interestingly he received the Nobel Prize. He received the Nobel Prize in 1906, because he has discovered the electrons. And what is the most important, his son J.P. Thomson, he also won the Nobel Prize in 1937. J.J. Thomson received Nobel Prize in 1906 and 1906, and his son J.P. Thomson won the Nobel Prize in 1937 for proving that wave-like properties of particle or electron. That means the J.P. Thomson, he extended the research what actually J.J. Thomson did. So in 1897 he discovered the electron, and he won the Nobel Prize, that means J.J. Thomson Nobel Prize in 1906 for discovering the elementary particle or electron. And his son characterizes the electrons, that means wave like properties. We know several other idea regarding the particle or electron, but the most importantly the wave like properties of electron is very famous. And J.P. Thomson discovered this, and he won the Nobel Prize in 1937. Now let's see what is the cathode ray and how we can confirm that the electrons are generated in the cathode ray. Here you can see a tube made of glass, exactly similar thing what J.J. Thomson used. This is a very large tube made of glass, and this is a vacuum system. By this line we can take out most of the gases or most of the air inside the tube. Here we can have a vacuum pump. Vacuum pump, that means suction pump. We have very powerful vacuum pumps. I have used in my PhD and postdoc research. We have very powerful vacuum pump, and if you keep the pump on continuously, then inside of the glass tube there will be very less amount of gas or very less amount of air. So this is the glass tube, and inside air is taken away by the vacuum pump. Now here inside the glass tube he kept two different electrodes. This is a cathode and this is another anode, and these are connected with wire with the voltage generator, high voltage generator. High voltage generator, that means we have a electronic device that can produce the very high potential difference. That means this is like as battery, but with battery or dry cell we can have only very small amount of potential difference. That means if you use one dry cell, normally one dry cell can have just 1.5 electron volt, but for different types of very high voltage generator we can have very high potential difference. I have used around 5000 potential difference, 5000 volt. 5000 volt potential difference we could generate. Even I did it, but with different types of other high voltage generator we can create a difference more than 5000, 10,000, even 10,000. No, 10,000 positive and 10,000 negative. That means overall 20,000 potential voltage difference can be generated. So he has used certain potential high voltage generator and connected with the anode and cathode. Now what happens here? When he applied the potential difference to the cathode and anode, he could realize, he could found some ray is coming out of the cathode. This is the cathode, and from this, when he applied the potential difference or voltage using these types of instrument, and he could found some ray is coming out of the cathode, and he named this one as cathode ray. because the ray is coming out of a cathode, therefore he has named this as cathode ray. Now, what is the property of this cathode ray? That means why J.J. Thomson constructed a glass tube, what I already mentioned. The partially evacuated mass of the air was pumped out of the tube. Then the applied high electric voltage between two electrodes at either end of the tube. He detected that a stream of particle ray was coming out of from the negatively charged electrode cathode to positively charged electrode. This ray is called cathode ray and the whole construction is called cathode ray tube. So overall this instrument is known as cathode ray tube. Now if you apply certain voltage here or obstacle, what type of obstacle? That means you want to prevent the path or you want to distract the path of this ray. Now if you apply some voltage here, maybe here you can apply some negative voltage, here you can apply some positive voltage, like just apply this is cathode and this is anode, like this types of electrode you can put here and you can apply certain another voltage. So if you apply certain voltage here, and already J.J. Thomson used to do that, that means he applied certain voltage, that means put some electrode and then put some voltage at the electrodes, so that here put negatively charged electrode and here positively charged electrode. Now what happens if a voltage is applied here? That means if this is this cathode ray, if this cathode ray is partially positive charge, then what will happen? Here we have given the negatively charged negative voltage, here positive voltage. Like let's see here, this is positive voltage and this is negative voltage. Now this is our cathode ray, these parallel lines are cathode ray. Now here we have applied a voltage, this is negative voltage, this is positive voltage. Now here you can see the cathode ray has been shifted or changed the direction towards the positive. That means the cathode ray, what do you think, if the cathode ray is positively charged or negatively charged? Anyone have any idea what will happen? We are applying certain voltage, this is negative voltage, this is positive voltage. Now if this is this cathode ray, if the cathode ray is positively charged, then what will happen? This positively charged voltage or the positive voltage will reflect, it will reflect the cathode ray, so that it will go like this way. But as the cathode ray is negatively charged, therefore the cathode ray is attracted by this positive charge or positive voltage, therefore it is bending like this way, and this is negatively charged and this is negatively charged, so this is going far away from the negative voltage. Therefore from this experiment and this observation, J.J. Thomson confirmed that the cathode ray is negatively charged. And cathode ray, now properties of cathode ray particle, they travel in a straight lines. Here you can see all the lines are parallel, therefore they travel in a straight line just from the cathode ray or cathode tube. This is the cathode, so from cathode the lines or ray are generated and they move straight in a straight line. They are independent of the material composition of the cathode. That means if you use different types of cathodes, sometime maybe you can use gold, sometime you can use iron or carbon or whatever, just you can replace with any types of material to make the cathode, but the property of generating this cathode ray, this ray is always same, but the intensity can be more or less. However, they are independent of the material composition of the cathode. So you can use any types of cathode and all of them will generate the ray, which means that every particle or every molecule or atom has their identical property and they can give the electron or these types of negative ray. Applying electric field in the path of the cathode ray deflects the ray. Already you have mentioned that if you apply certain electric field, this is an electric field or what is positive voltage, negative voltage. So if you apply certain electric field in the path of the cathode ray, then it will distract or it will change the path depending on the direction or depending on the charge. If there is a negatively charged, then what will happen? It will go far away from the negative charge because this negative and this negative will repel each other, so they are going far away. And if it is positively charged, then it will come closer to the positive charge because negative charge and positive charge are attracted by each other, therefore it will come closer. Now J.J. Thomson measured the charge by mass ratio E by m of a cathode ray particle using deflection in both electric and magnetic field. So E by m equal minus 1.76 into 10 to the power 8 coulomb per gram. The cathode ray particle turned out to be 2000 times lighter than the hydrogen. So why we are considering hydrogen? Because hydrogen do not have any neutron, so hydrogen have only one proton and one electron. Therefore the mass of a proton or mass of a hydrogen is exactly or almost same, therefore we are considering the lighter than hydrogen, or we are considering the unit of mass as a hydrogen, or mass of proton, both are same. Now Millikan oil drop experiment. This is Robert Millikan, discovered the charge of electron and won Nobel Prize in Physics in 1923. So J.J. Thomson could not give the idea about the charge. However, he did these types of experiment, but he could not figure out what is the charge of this cathode ray. And then Millikan oil drop experiment, from this he did, and he could realize he could find out the value of the charge. But J.J. Thomson could give the this is negatively charged, because when did these types of experiment, that means this negative electrode or the negative electric field reflect these types of cathode ray. So he could give the this is the negative, but he could not give the exact value of the charge. So in 1909, American physicist R. Millikan measured the charge of the electron using negatively charged oil droplets. The measured charge of an electron is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs. So Robert Millikan, he found out the value of the charge. How much? 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs. So for an electron, for any electron, for a single electron, the charge is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. In previous slide I have mentioned that the charge of an electron is -1 and charge of a proton is +1. Actually this is comparative value. So if we compare with the charge of a proton and charge of a electron, these are value is same but their sign is different. So we are considering this a ratio 1 and +1 and -1. But overall the charge of an electron is 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 minus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb, and for a proton that would be plus 1.6 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulombs. Using the measured charge of an electron, we can calculate the mass of electron from E by m ratio by given J.J. Thomson. So J.J. Thomson could not give the value of the charge. However, he has given a very good number. That means the value of the charge by mass, and that was minus 1.76 into 10 to the power 8 coulomb per gram. So from this value and the charge of the electron, now we can find out the mass of an electron. Here you can see, just put the same value, then m equal 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 28 gram. That means the mass of an electron is 9.1 into 10 to the power minus 28 gram. Now what you have learned from this, that means regarding the electron. Electron was discovered by J.J. Thomson in cathode ray tube. Already we have shown in the previous slides, and we have already shown the electrons are negatively charged. Here we have seen that electrons are negatively charged because this negatively charged electrode or the electric field repel the ray. That means this ray is negatively charged, therefore this negative charge repels this, and this is positively charged, so it attracts towards its, therefore it's bent like this way, not opposite. The charge of an electron was measured by R. Millikan in oil drop experiment, and charge of an electron is minus 1.60 into 10 to the power minus 19 coulomb. And finally mass of an electron is 9.8 into 10 to the power minus 28 gram, and which is around 2000 times lighter than a proton or a hydrogen. This is what we are going to learn about the electron. Now we will learn about proton. You are familiar these types of figures: Thomson atomic model and Rutherford atomic model. This is the atomic model which is very similar to as pudding. I think you are familiar with the pudding. Many of you have eaten pudding. So this can be considered as Thomson's pudding model, or like as watermelon, because you have seen inside watermelon there are a lot of seeds. These seeds can be considered like as electron, and the red portion what we eat, that can be considered as empty space. So even inside pudding you can have different types of fruits that can be considered as the electrons, and the other portion except the seeds or except the fruits, that can be considered as pudding. So just what Thomson model give? Thomson model could give the idea about the electrons, and he has mentioned that most of the parts of an atom is empty. That is true, because from any experiment regarding the proton and electron we know that the electrons stay outside the nucleus. So he could not give any idea about the nucleus. So how we can explain the existence of nucleus or protons or neutrons? Therefore the Thomson's model could not describe all the things regarding the atom. Therefore the Rutherford did some experiment. Here you can see this is a black line. Actually this is not a black line, or this is a fluorescent material or fluorescent box. You can consider what is fluorescent material. Fluorescent material is something that when any light strikes on the material, it gives some glow, it gives some dark spot. That is the fluorescent component. Now Rutherford used a box, and inside the box he put some radioactive element which gives the alpha particle, and all the system, and he allowed the radical or alpha particle, to pass through a very thin gold foil. This is the very thin gold foil. You can see this is very thin gold foil. So when he allowed the alpha particle to pass through a thin gold foil, and this all the system are enclosed in a zinc sulfide fluorescent screen. That means if there is any light is coming out from this alpha particle, that will give certain spot wherever this is like as a sphere. You can consider like as a football. Oh, then the football, then what will happen? Just if you put any radioactive element or alpha particle generating source, so that will glow and it will give light, so that will hit on the wall of the football or the surface. This is fluorescent material or fluorescent screen. Therefore what will happen? Rutherford found many dark spots in the same direction. Most of the dark spots in the same direction. That means that should be here. That means most of the dark spots, that means the ray, this alpha particle is allowed to go only one direction. Here you can see this is given some certain barrier, so the alpha particle can move only one direction, no other direction it is possible, and it is passing through a thin gold foil. So when the particle, this alpha particle is passing through the gold foil, most of the particle is going through the gold foil without change any direction, without any direction change. So what is the idea? That means most of the area, most of the place of an gold foil or atom is free or empty, and but some of the alpha particle is distracted little bit, so the angle has been changed a little, not all very large, but few of them, very few of them, the angle of the particle, reflected particle, this very large. That means it strikes with something heavy. So what is the heavy particle? That means we know if you have two different car, when the two car collide each other, if something is very lighter, let us consider my hand, this is my hand, this is one car, heavy car and very large car, and this lipstick, you can see the lip balm, so this can be considered as very light car. So if these two hit each other, what will happen? This lighter one will just, it cannot displace this heavier one, so it will just like this way, or it can come back for reverse. So you need to think about that. Just two objects, when two objects come close together or strike each other, the lighter one will be reflected or it will go reverse, but the heavier one will remain in the same position. Therefore from this idea, as some of the particles are coming back or reflected in the same region or very high angle or very large angle, it reflects in the very large angle, therefore he could realize that means something very heavy inside the center or inside the atom is there. Therefore from this idea he could found or he could give the idea that most of the place in an atom is empty, because many particles or maximum particles are going through the atom. That means it has no deflection, like this way it has no deflection. So you can see this particle, if it hits this one or some other particles, it do not have any problem, because these are very light. So and most of the place are empty. So if the alpha particle strikes with the electron, then it has no change or it do not change the direction. But if it strikes the center, that means something heavy, in that case if it strikes on the side, then it will reflect little bit more, and if it reflects at the close to the center, exactly at the middle, in that case it will go back or reverse. Therefore he concluded that something heavier inside the center. So Rutherford bombarded a beam of alpha particles on an ultra thin gold foil and then detected the scattered alpha particles in zinc sulfide fluorescent screen. So as many as the spot in the zinc sulfide screen, there are the evidence that where the alpha particle is hitting back. So if it hits back or if it produces a spot here, we can consider that there is no change in angle, but when it hits other position, wherever the alpha particle strikes, there will be a spot. So we can easily understand where the alpha particle is hitting. Now, what are the results from the Rutherford experiment? Most of the particles pass through the foil without any deflection. As already we have seen that most of the particles are moving through the atom without any deflection, because most of the parts are empty. That is okay. Some of the alpha particles deflect at a small angle. That means here you can see this particle or this alpha particle is deflecting a small angle, and some of them reverse, some of them, very few, even bounce back. Bounce back means just going in the same direction or of very large angle. Reflected angle is very large, therefore some of them are deflected or very few even bounce back. So 1 in 20,000, that means overall if you count this total number of particles, alpha particles, that means if you count the total number of spots in the display, then around 1 out of 20,000 particles or out of 20,000 spots you may get one hair. That means very heavy, the center, just the heavy particles is existing in very small area. So what is the conclusion for this? Most of the atom's mass and its entire positive charge are confined in a small core or called nucleus. As already mentioned that just 1 out of 20,000, that means this is very low percentage. That means if you consider the percentage, just 1 out of 20,000, this is very rare number. So most of the atom's mass and its entire positive charge are confined in a small core and called nucleus. The positively charged particles is called proton. Most of the volume of an atom are empty space, because around 19,999 particles are going through the atom without any deflection, and one is bounce back. Therefore 19,999, that means these particles are going through, that means the most of the area, most of the place are empty. The number of negatively charged electrons dispersed outside the nucleus is same as the number of positively charged in the nucleus. It explains the overall electrical neutrality of an atom. That means the number of atom, from here it is little bit difficult to explain, but from previously what we have found from the discovery of electron, we have found that outermost shell or cathode ray giving electron. So inside the proton or inside the nucleus there are some protons and heavy charge, positively charged. So the number of positively charged and number of negatively charged particles inside an atom is equal. Therefore the atom can be considered as electrically neutral. Now what about the neutron? How the neutron was discovered? From the previous discussion we can see that Goldfile experiment gave a clear picture of the structure of an atom which consists of protons. But one thing very interesting, that many of the scientists found that the number of protons and the an atom is not the same. Most of the time the scientists found that the mass of an atom is almost twice that the number of protons. That means if you consider any atom like as hydrogen, helium, if you can consider as a helium has only 2 protons, but the mass of the helium is 4 AMU. That means scientists became puzzled. That means we know that an helium atom has 2 protons, but the mass is 4. How it is possible? Therefore, many other scientists, they could not find out the answer how it is possible. We know that the number of protons in an atom, but the mass is almost double most of the time, but not always. But scientists soon realized that the atomic model offered by the Rutherford is not complete. Various experiments showed that mass of the nucleus is approximately twice than that the number of proton. Then what is the origin of this additional mass? That means why the excess mass is coming from and where from coming it. Rutherford postulated the existence of some neutral particle having mass similar to proton, but there was no direct experimental evidence. Rutherford has mentioned that something neutral inside, but he could not give any proper evidence that what is this neutral particle, or what is this. So Rutherford postulated that the existence of some neutral particle having mass similar to proton, but there was no direct experimental evidence. Several theories and experimental observations eventually led the discovery of neutron. We can summarize some of the scientific observations behind the discovery of neutron. Let's see how scientists could give the evidence regarding that the discovery of neutron. In 1930, W. Bothe and H. Becker found an electrically neutral radiation when they bombarded beryllium with alpha particle. So I will show you the here. This is the alpha particle. This is the alpha particle, and when this alpha particle strikes a beryllium atom, what happens? It produces a carbon atom, and certain neutral particle is generated. So in 1930, W. Bothe and H. Becker found an electrically neutral radiation. So when they have hit the beryllium atom with alpha particle, they could realize a neutral radiation. This is neutral radiation. So neutral radiation, when they bombarded beryllium with alpha particle, they thought it was photons with high energy. That means they also could not give the proper idea. They have found that neutrons, that means the neutrons or this neutral radiation, they have given the name, or they have given the idea that can be a photon, not the proton. This is, they have named this as a photon. That means something like as radiation, but they do not have charge. Then they have given the idea that can be photon. So they thought it was photons with high energy, gamma ray. In 1932, Irene and Frederick Joliot-Curie showed that this ray can eject protons when it hits paraffin or hydrogen containing compounds. That means when these types of neutral radiation is used, this type radiation, let's see, I am showing here. This is the beryllium, and when when the alpha particle is hitting to the beryllium, then some neutral radiation is generated. This is neutral radiation. So from this scientist W. Bothe and H. Baker, they have realized, or they have mentioned, that can be a photon. But Julio Curie, what they have mentioned, that when this neutral radiation are passed, or this neutral radiation strike the paraffin wax, that means paraffin wax, what does it mean? This is actually hydrogen containing compound or hydrogen containing molecule. So when they have used these types of radiation to heat a paraffin wax, they observed that protons are displaced by this radiation. Now what is the idea? If this is photons, that means very light particle. So the light particle cannot eject any other heavier particle, because we know proton is very heavy. That is very interesting. That means if this is a very lighter particle or neutral radiation, what we have found, the W. Bothe, they have mentioned that these types of radiation is as neutral radiation and considered as photon. So they have given some wrong idea. Or now what the Julio Curie, they have found that if this radiation are passed through a paraffin wax or hydrogen containing particle or molecule, this radiation, this neutral radiation can eject hydrogen or eject proton from the molecule. Therefore now you can realize this particle has heavier mass. These particles are very heavy, and as they have very high kinetic energy, therefore when a heavier particle or heavier ray with very high energy is striking some molecule, then a proton or hydrogen can be ejected. Therefore okay, in 1932, Irene and Frederick Joliot Curie showed that this ray can eject protons when it hits paraffin or hydrogen containing compounds. The question arose that how massless photon. That means if the photon is considered as massless, then it is not possible to eject protons. That means proton is very heavier. So that is not possible. Therefore protons which are 1836 times heavier than electrons. Previously we have mentioned around 2000, but actually the number is 1836 times heavier than electron. So the ejected rays in bombarded of the beryllium with alpha particle cannot be photon. So as already we have mentioned that this radiation can eject hydrogens or protons from a molecule. Therefore if this is massless, that means zero mass, these types of radiation cannot eject a heavier particle or heavier proton. Therefore that should be something different, that should have some mass. In 1932, James Chadwick performed the same experiment as Irene and Frederick Joliot Curie, but he used many different targets of bombardment besides paraffin. So Joliot Curie used only one target, that means only paraffin, but James Chadwick did the same experiment, but he has used several targets beside paraffin. By analyzing the energies of different targets after bombardment, he discovered the existence of a new particle which is chargeless and has similar mass to proton. This particle is called neutron. Beryllium undergoes the following reaction. Here you can see already. This is the alpha particle and this is the beryllium. So when the alpha particle hits the beryllium, it produces a neutral radiation which is considered as neutron, and this radiation can eject proton by hitting some hydrogen containing particle or hydrogen containing molecule. Ernest Rutherford, this man, was awarded Nobel Prize in Chemistry in 1908 for his work in radioactivity. James Chadwick, a student of Rutherford, won Nobel Prize in Physics in 1935 for discovery of neutron. So this is the teacher, this is a student. Both of them won the Nobel Prize 1908 and 1935. And the gold foil experiment was originally conducted by Hans Geiser, this man, and Ernest Marsen under the supervision of Ernest Rutherford at the University of Manchester. So this two guy was the student of Ernest Rutherford. So the idea was from Rutherford, but the experiment was mainly performed by these two guys. Therefore, as the idea was generated by Rutherford, so he won the Nobel Prize. And now, now what we have learned from the structure of atom, atomic mass equal mass of protons plus mass of neutrons. That means, as we have mentioned, that the mass of a atom is almost double to the mass of a proton. Then what is the extra part? It consists the neutron. Therefore the atomic mass is mass of a proton and mass of a neutron. For a neutral atom, number of proton plus equal number of electron. That means already I have mentioned that electrically neutral. Measured mass and charge of the three elementary particles are given the table. Here already I have mentioned all of them. And this is the end of today's class. If you have any question or comments regarding this, then you are welcome.